Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick-Taking Table. I'm taking up your time by talking about Time Palatrix today. It's a game by Taiki Shinzawa. It is, after all, Taiki Shinzawa month. What's that? Oh, I have the wrong cover? Let's just go to a different time and play a different intro. Right. Oh, okay. Did I get the right one? Awesome. Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick-Taking Table. I'm taking up your time by talking about Time Palatrix today. It's by Taiki Shinzawa. This is, after all, Taiki Shinzawa month. We covered American Bookshop and Zimbabwe Trick by him in the past. But the hook to Time Palatrix is that you play to tricks out of order. Everyone is playing to 3 tricks at the same time, and you can kind of choose which of the 3 tricks you want to play to. Then, after everyone's played to those 3 tricks, they evaluate in order. Kind of a weird concept, but let's go to the table and I'll show you how to play. Time Palatrix is made up of 4 suits numbering from 1 to 12. The pink stopwatch suit is going to be trump, and these other 3 suits are just regular suits. To set up Time Palatrix, you give 12 cards to each player. In a 4-player game, you deal out all the cards, but in a 3-player game, you take out the 10, 11, and 12 of each of the 4 suits. You decide start player in any method. Let's say it's Gary. So Gary will look at their hand, and they'll determine how many tricks they think they're going to win. Let's say they think they're going to win 3. So they'll take 3 of these purple chips and put them in front of them like this. Then Zelda will look at their hands and make a bet on how many tricks they think they're going to win. Let's say they think they're going to win 5, but they're not really sure about that. So, in this game, if you're not sure about your bid, you can actually take one of these leniency chips. There's 1 for each player. What that means is you think you can get either 4 or 5 tricks. The cost of taking a leniency, though, comes in points. So let's say Gary hits their bid of 3 exactly. They'll get 2 points for each trick, so 6 points. However, if Zelda hits either 4 or 5 tricks, they'll only get 1 point per trick, as opposed to 2, like Gary. For both of them, though, if they get under or over their bid of either 4 or 5 or 3, they'll get 0 points. Now, let's say Seinfeld will bid 3. Gary will get the starting yellow place marker, and they will play the first card of the round. With Gary's lead, they can play to any of these first 3 tricks. So let's say they play the 7 green to the first slot. If you are the first person to play to a certain slot, you'll take one of the pawns corresponding to the color of the slot. This helps everyone else know that if they, or when they, rather, play to the first slot, they have to follow this suit. Coming to Zelda now, they can play to the first slot. If they do, they'd have to play a green if they had one, because Time Palatrix is a must-follow game. However, let's say they only have this one orange and want to play it to the 3rd slot to slough off orange. So they can play to the 3rd slot, take the corresponding token, and then it goes to Seinfeld. So Seinfeld now has a choice. They can play orange to the 3rd slot, or they can play green to the 1st slot, or they can play to the 2nd slot. So let's say they notice orange will be played, and they want to get rid of orange. So let's say they play orange to the 2nd slot. They will take the red pawn and put it in front of them. So now Gary can either play it to the 2nd slot, where they have to follow suit orange, or the 3rd slot, where they also have to follow suit orange. So looking at their hand, they think that they can win possibly one of them, or both, but they'll choose to play this 2 orange here. Zelda's turn to now play green or orange. They don't have any orange. So what they decide to do is play to the green to gauge if they are going to win that. So now, when it comes to Seinfeld, they can play either orange or green. So let's say they play their other orange to 3 here. Finally, coming to Gary's last hand, let's say they play this 8 to try to win the 3rd trick.
Going to Zelda now, they have to play orange. But since they don't have any orange, they can play whatever they want. Let's say they play this blue 7. Finally, when it comes to Seinfeld, in the first spot, they have to play green. Let's say they play this 1 green. Although tricks are played out of order, they actually follow subsequently. So, let's say that Gary was the start player, so they led the first trick with his green 7. Zelda won it, so Zelda will take one of their cubes and put it on the purple chip. Now, since Zelda won, they actually are leading with this blue on the second trick. So it actually isn't Seinfeld who's leading with orange and blue being offsuit, but rather Zelda leading with blue and actually Seinfeld and Gary are offsuit. So since blue was led and orange is both offsuit, Zelda actually wins this again. So now Zelda will lead with a 7 orange, and then Gary, who has the highest orange, will win and then lead the next round. After this, you collect all the cards and put them in a communal discard pile, and then the leader will lead the next 3 rounds. Let's say the next hand has a good example of how Trump works. Let's say Gary played orange, so Zelda, who didn't have any orange, was able to just play one of her pinks to the first slot. Same with Seinfeld. So now the highest Trump would actually win, so Seinfeld would win the cube. Fast forwarding here to the end of the round. So it looks like Gary hit their bid of 3. So if you don't take a leniency chip, each trick that you won, if you hit it perfectly, is worth 2 points. So Gary gets 6. Zelda hit theirs, but they took a leniency, so it's only 1 point per trick, so they get 5. If they had won 4, they would have gotten 4 points. Sadly, Seinfeld over here got 1 more than their bid, so they get 0. If they had gotten 2, they would have also only gotten 0. After calculating the score, you would shuffle the cards, deal them out again, put away the bidding, and you would play rounds equal to the number of players. So in a 3-player game, you would play 2 more rounds. There is a variant on the other side of the paper where all players can play where there is actually a 4th placement, and you would include this blue pawn. The rules say that you do still play 3 cards, so there's 3 card placement, but they also say that 4 card placement has a humorous effect, so I feel like you can play either way if you want to play with this variant. So that is Time Palatrix. This is another amazing Taiki Shinzawa game. The production is pretty good. I think the graphic design and the clocks to suits, super nice. The only tough, maybe nitpicky things I have is of the pawns, the yellow start player and the yellow small pawn got confused a little bit. And then probably the bigger complaint is this mat where you play tricks is just a little thin, and the score part kind of had a bend and the tokens would slide a little bit, but other than that, it's a really good production. The gameplay itself is pretty smooth. It's definitely a little more thinky, and there's some thought. When players look at those 3 different tricks, there's a big decision space, especially seeing their hands for the first time. But I think it's a fun puzzle, and it's a puzzle everyone's in at the same time and crunching through. And it's super rewarding when you can pull off a really cool maneuver, maybe see where someone's going to get the lead that isn't expected and play off that, or short-suiting yourself and then playing to the earlier trick when you don't have that card anymore. The tough thing is I think this game has a bit of a brutal bidding, especially if you have a bad hand. I know that having no pinks, which happened to me and another player when we were playing a few times, can be just tough. You just know that not only do you not have the pinks that someone else has, but you're just going to be winning fewer tricks. There's nothing in this game that helps a bad hand. Getting no tricks is no bonus or anything. And so you're kind of a little bit handicapped in that regard. I know maybe like American Bookshop or different trick takers with that. Even a bad hand, you can kind of maneuver yourself to get some points. This one, it's a little harder, which isn't a bad thing, but it's just something to keep in mind. I love how rewarding this game is. You can kind of pull off some really cool moves, maybe playing to the 3rd slot and working yourself up to the 1st slot to kind of pull this cool maneuver.
The fact that there's 3 slots is perfect. There's enough space for decisions and flexibility, but not too many to lead to analysis paralysis or overthinking. Another really smart thing is these leniency chips. Just knowing that, because this game is so crazy, that you might be off by 1 is super helpful. I noticed that not taking it is really fun. It's cool to be on that knife's edge of a bit. The tension there is just amazing. So the bidding is fantastic in this game, even though it is pretty brutal. So that is Time Palatrix by Taiki Shinzawa, another amazing game of his. The decision space is just so crunchy, but still quick, and the bidding is lenient but strict. It's kind of a mix of these 2 realms, but the card play is still fluid and fun. The tough thing is availability on this one. I also picked this one up at Tokyo Game Market 2019. There are some links I'll try to include that offer the game, but I haven't found a way to get them shipped to the US. It is pretty tough to get this one. But if you want to make it and want to have such a fun, thinky trick taker that the puzzle is super rewarding, then you should totally check this out. I think you'll like it. Thanks for watching.